Emily Parker never imagined that a simple yoga class would change her life forever. She was 38 years old, a mother of two, and living in a quiet suburb outside Portland, Oregon. On the surface, Emily's life looked perfect. Her husband Michael was a hardworking IT manager, her kids Sarah and Ethan were doing well in school, and they lived in a cozy house with a white picket fence that neighbors often admired. But inside, Emily felt an emptiness she couldn't explain. She moved through her days like a machine, cooking, cleaning, packing lunches, attending parent-teacher meetings, yet the joy that once filled her life seemed to have faded. It was her daughter Sarah who first suggested yoga. "Mom, you're always stressed. Mrs. Collins told us she does yoga and it helps her relax. You should try it," Sarah said one evening at dinner. Emily had laughed it off at first, but the idea stuck. The next morning, after dropping the kids at school, she drove past a small studio with a sign that read, "Harmony Yoga, find your balance." Without thinking twice, she parked her car and walked inside. The scent of lavender filled the air. Soft instrumental music played in the background, and sunlight streamed through large windows. Emily felt an instant calm she hadn't experienced in years. Behind the counter stood a woman in her late 40s with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile. "Welcome," she said softly. "I'm Rachel. Are you here for the beginner's class?" Something about Rachel's presence was comforting, like a mother's embrace. Emily nodded, unsure of what to expect. That morning, as she moved awkwardly through stretches and poses, she noticed how Rachel never judged her mistakes. Instead, Rachel's voice guided the class with patience, encouragement, and kindness. When the session ended, Emily felt lighter, not just in her body, but in her heart. Weeks turned into months, and yoga became a ritual for Emily. But it wasn't just the stretches or breathing exercises that drew her back. It was Rachel. She was unlike anyone Emily had met before, serene yet strong, calm yet filled with quiet energy. She always stayed behind after class to check on her students, asking about their lives, their struggles, their dreams. To Emily, who often felt invisible in her own home, those small moments of being truly seen meant everything. One morning after class, Emily found herself lingering behind. Rachel walked over with a smile. "You seem distracted today. Is everything okay?" Emily hesitated, her eyes welling up. She hadn't planned on saying anything, but the words spilled out. I don't feel like myself anymore. I love my family, but sometimes it feels like I've lost who I am." Rachel listened without interrupting, her expression tender. After a pause, she said, "You're not alone, Emily. Many women carry silent burdens. But remember, your worth isn't measured by how much you do for others. It's also about how deeply you care for yourself." That conversation opened a door. Slowly, Emily began sharing more with Rachel, her fears about aging, the loneliness in her marriage, the guilt of not always being the perfect mother. In turn, Rachel shared pieces of her own story. She had once been a successful corporate lawyer, married with 2 children, living the American dream. But behind closed doors, her marriage was filled with distance and unspoken pain. When her husband left, Rachel found herself broken and lost. Yoga had saved her. It gave her a path to healing, a way to rebuild her life from within. One rainy afternoon, Emily stayed after class again. "How did you do it?" she asked softly. "How did you find the strength to start over?" Rachel looked out the window for a moment before answering. "I stopped asking myself what I had lost and started asking what I still had. I had my breath, my body, my heart. That was enough to take the first step." Sometimes, Emily, the hardest thing isn't letting go, it's believing that you deserve more. Those words became a turning point. Emily began journaling, something she hadn't done since college. She joined Rachel for weekend meditation retreats and started cooking healthier meals. Slowly, her spark returned. Michael noticed the change too. One evening, as they sat on the porch, he said, "You seem happier. Different in a good way. I didn't realize how much I miss seeing you like this." Emily felt a lump in her throat. "I think I forgot how to take care of myself. But I'm learning again." Michael reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. I want to learn too. Maybe we can go to one of those yoga classes together. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. For the first time in years, Emily felt her marriage wasn't just about raising kids or paying bills. It was about rediscovering each other. Months later, Emily stood in front of a mirror, preparing for her very first day as a certified yoga instructor. Rachel had encouraged her to take the teacher training program, and though Emily had doubted herself at every step, she had persevered. Looking at her reflection, she whispered, "I found myself again." Her first class was small, just 4 women, each carrying their own invisible struggles. As Emily guided them through poses, she noticed the nervous looks on their faces, the way they hesitated the same way she once had. She smiled, remembering Rachel's words, "Your worth isn't measured by how much you do for others. It's about how deeply you care for yourself." When the class ended, one woman approached Emily with tears in her eyes. "Thank you. I didn't realize how much I needed this." At that moment, Emily understood the gift Rachel had given her. It wasn't just yoga. It was the courage to embrace her untold story, to find strength in vulnerability, and to pass that strength to others. Later that evening, Emily visited Rachel at the studio. "I wanted to tell you something," Emily said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You didn't just teach me yoga. You helped me remember who I am. You gave me back my life." Rachel's eyes filled with tears as she hugged her tightly.
"No, Emily.
"You gave yourself back your life. I just reminded you it was still there, waiting for you." Standing there, Emily realized that everyone carries an untold story, stories of sacrifice, resilience, heartbreak, and healing. And sometimes, all it takes is one person who believes in us, one gentle voice that says, "You are enough," to change the course of our lives. From that day on, Emily lived with a new purpose, not just as a mother or a wife, but as a woman who had learned to love herself again. And in sharing her story, she hoped to remind others that it's never too late to rediscover who you truly are.